Can your child get a proper education if you live in West Africa? You may find after watching this video that the education system in West Africa is not only better than what you thought, but it might be a better environment for your children to learn than the Western world. So let's talk about it. Probably the number one reason that I hear in my appointments from Westerners who are hesitant to move to West Africa despite seeing all the benefits of living in the region is that they are concerned about their children's education. Often they'll say they are very interested in buying a property, but they just want to wait until their kids are in college. But what if I told you that your children could get a more rigorous education in a structured environment where they would be more happy and be better prepared for success after graduation than if they were educated in the Western world? This is not hyperbole. I have genuinely found West African education to surpass the educational system in the West, particularly at the private academies, in terms of discipline, education level, fitness level, and the social network the kids develop. But before I get into this more, the reason I'm talking about private academies is because the typical Westerner who would pay $500,000 for a new construction home in Africa would typically send their kids to an academy. And that's my client base. But much of what I'm saying could apply to the standard schools in West Africa. Just ask any student who has transferred from an African school what they thought about public schools in America or Canada. Generally, they'll tell you that they got bored studying in the West because the classes were too simple. That is because the Western education system is highly bureaucratic, and in order to keep as many people happy as possible, they slow down the education process. But is that really setting up your kids for success? Compare that to education at a West African private academy. In West Africa, there is a greater emphasis on discipline, respect, and knowing the subject matter. There generally isn't extra credit or special consideration given to sports teams. The kids are there to learn. As a result, kids are graduating at a higher level in math and science than the typical Western educated student. The kids eat real food, unlike the Western world, where they often use the same companies that supply prison food to feed the school-aged children, despite it being this terrible processed food, and we wonder why childhood obesity is such a problem in the West. And if diversity is your concern, the private academies educate children from all over the world, from many different nationalities, races, and religious backgrounds. And although I hate this to be an issue, unlike the West, there really aren't safety concerns for students in West Africa. There's also no weird social agenda being pushed on the kids in West Africa. I don't want this video to get flagged, but you probably know what I'm talking about. But what about cost? Generally, the tuition at a good academy in West Africa will run between $2,500 and $3,500 a year. There are some high-end academies that cost over $20,000 a year, but a good rule of thumb is to budget $5,000 a year per child with all the expenses included. That may sound like a lot if your kids go to a public school in the West, but think about what it costs to live in a good school zone. In the Washington, D.C. metro area, the difference in cost between a house in a good school zone and a struggling school zone is between $300,000 and $500,000, which with taxes would equate to almost a $3,500 a month additional mortgage payment. That's $42,000 additional dollars you'd pay every year for your kids to have the right to go to a non-failing school in Washington, D.C. So you can get a better education in West Africa at a lower cost where your kids will be safer and they'll be educated with the children of the African elite, and their diploma will be accepted by the elite colleges in America if that's something you are aiming for. For me, the pros are greater than any downsides, but I want to know what you guys think. Am I overestimating the quality of African education or underselling Western education? Would you be comfortable sending your kids to an elite African academy? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, if this video provided value to you,